Socrates woke with a question already humming in his chest. What if daily life is the curriculum, not the classroom? In Athens 2,000 years ago, the day began with a breath, a street, and a challenge to take seriously the things we think we know. This is not a myth about a genius who spoke grandly. It's about a daily habit you can practice, a way of living that turns questions into virtue. Today we follow the rhythms of a life that rarely wore a toga of certainty, but wore humility like a shield and curiosity like a flame. The morning light spilled over the agora as if the city itself were waking, up to its own stubborn questions. Socrates walked with a calm gait, not rushing the streets, but inviting the streets to slow down with him. He did not announce his wisdom from a pedestal. He wandered until his presence pressed people to think aloud. If you want a tip from his daily life, start by showing up with less certainty than you carried the day before. He would greet a tailor, a potter, a student, and ask not what they believed, but why they believed it. That is the core rhythm. Question first, answer second, and if an answer comes, it should be questioned again. A single morning might begin with a simple inquiry. What is courage? And end with a pause, a sip of water, and a fresh doubt. He did not catalog truths in grand shelves. He cataloged doubts, tests, and small agreements with life. The daily life of Socrates becomes a kind of practice calendar. Mornings for examination, afternoons for conversation, evenings for listening to the quiet voice that says, "You do not know all that you think you know." Yet his tips were not dry intellectual exercises. They were practical measures for staying humane in a world that loves certainty more than clarity. He walked through Athens like a mendicant of air, noticing how people carry their beliefs in their bodies as if they were burdens, not badges. So a practical tip appears. Trim the weight of your beliefs with curiosity, not aggression. When you sense a conviction tightening your chest, slow down. Ask a few clarifying questions, and watch how the room shifts as the air changes. Socrates did not write his wisdom. He braided it into dialogues. He believed that learning is a shared act, a choreography of voices. If you want to borrow a daily technique, imitate that choreography. Start conversations where you anticipate how your own certainty might be wrong. Invite someone to correct you. If you cannot find a person, write your own questions and answer them aloud. Then invite a moment of silence to hear what your deeper self might be saying beyond the ego's reply. The midday light found him near the portico and the shaded arcs of activity. That made Athens feel like a living laboratory. Here, a student might present a passion or a fear, and Socrates would hold up a simple mirror. What is the essence of your claim? And how would you test it against the simplest counterexample? The goal was not to win the argument, but to win distance from the illusion of certainty. The person who can endure that distance becomes, in a sense, a wiser listener to life. Here again, a practical tip rises. Test your beliefs against the simplest counterexample. Then live with the discomfort of that friction until your mind becomes more supple. Even a philosopher's daily routine requires nourishment, and Socrates ate plainly bread, olives, a bowl of lentils, water, never indulging in excess as a way to honor discernment over appetite. The body, he would argue in his quiet way, is a witness to our decisions. If you want a daily discipline from his life, treat temperance as a weekly habit, not a once-a-month virtue. Notice how every bite becomes a reminder. To choose restraint is to choose attention. That attentiveness, repeated day after day, becomes a mind that can stay with a hard question without fleeing to the nearest distraction. The afternoon brought walks that doubled as seminars. Socrates would wander among merchants and scholars, letting conversations drift like boats on a harbor. The art was not to dominate, but to stay present enough to hear. To summarize another view with clarity before offering a counter idea. A modern listener can translate this into a simple rule. Repeat the other person's core point back to them before proposing your own. This creates a bridge of understanding rather than a battleground of pride. In those exchanges, you learn that the hardest questions reveal themselves not in a single moment of certainty, but in the slow arc of mutual testing. Footsteps. 3. A turning point arrives when you see that Socrates' day does not seek triumph. It seeks alignment between belief and action, between what we say and what we do, between the person we claim to be and the person we actually become. The twist is quiet. His most radical claim is not that he knows something, but that he knows nothing with finality. That is not defeat. It is a practice of freedom. If you want to integrate this into daily life, cultivate a healthy relation to your own ignorance. Start each day with a single admission. There is more I could learn today than yesterday. Let that admission redraw your agenda. By dusk, Socrates would sit with companions, listening more than debating, acknowledging the value of each voice even when it contradicted his own. He did not curate a following. He nourished a community of inquiry. The final tip from this daily life is perhaps the oldest and still the most disruptive. Embrace questions as companions, not threats. The examined life is not a solitary ascent. It is a shared ascent, a collective willingness to revise the map as we move further into the territory. In practice, that means weekly dialogues with a friend or a journal in which you record a question, a challenge, and a revised stance after a night's sleep. Let the revision be the goal, not the victory. What if his daily life was not a relic, but a field guide for our own age? In a world addicted to quick answers, Socrates offers a patient antidote. Pause, probe, and reformulate. The city becomes a classroom when we refuse to treat certainty as a currency. The greatest tip, perhaps, is to treat humility as a daily discipline. To walk like him through your own street, with the gentle insistence that you may be wrong, is to begin again with each breath. The unexamined life, yes, remains a warning, but the examined life, lived with care, becomes a practice that makes ordinary days radiant with possibility. SFX, soft_chime. 2 open questions linger as you end this listening. And that is exactly the point. Socrates did not promise a blueprint for happiness. He offered a method for living with questions. He reframed daily life as a laboratory of character, with the smallest choice: how you greet a neighbor, how you listen to a stranger, how you respond to a challenge becomes a test of what you truly believe. If you borrow one more habit from him, let it be this. When you hear yourself declare something with certainty, pause, articulate a clear reason, and invite a rival view to stand beside it. The room expands, and so do you. SFX, soft_heartbeat. 3. So the daily life of Socrates, if you study it closely, is a series of small, deliberate acts that accumulate into a larger virtue. A mind that refuses to settle for easy answers, a heart that keeps listening, a will that chooses restraint over bravado. It is a daily practice as precise as a craftsman's tool, as generous as a neighbor's smile, and as stubborn as a question that refuses to die. If you want to honor that legacy, begin with the simplest steps. Ask, listen, question again, and be willing to live with uncertainty long enough for clarity to emerge. In doing so, you may find that the real philosophical workshop is not in the library, but in the ordinary hours of your own life. SFX, distant_chorus. What you take from this is not a new dogma, but a set of habits that can rewire how you move through each day. The ultimate tip from Socrates, if we must name one, is this: treat every moment as a chance to practice examination and care. Let curiosity be your compass, let humility be your anchor, and let dialogue be your bridge. If you carry that into your morning, you may discover, as he did, that the examined life is not a burden, but a form of freedom you can wear as lightly as a cloak. Now, go question what you think you know, and allow your daily life to become the proving ground for wisdom. SFX, Philosophers. 3. Let this daily pattern settle in your bones. Not trivia, but architecture for living. Each morning is a doorway, each question a hinge, If certainty tightens your chest, loosen it with a kinder doubt. Tomorrow, try one more small soaker. Moment before answer. Let this daily pattern settle in your bones. Not trivia, but architecture for living. Each morning is a doorway. Each question, a hinge. If certainty tightens your chest, loosen it with a kinder doubt. Tomorrow, try one more small soaker. Moment before answer.